Being able to speak English is key to integrating into British life. That's according to MPs who want immigrants to learn the language before coming to the country.
They also want the government to consider giving more power to the regions over immigration.
Labour's Chuka Umunna chairs the all-party parliamentary group on social integration. He joins us now from our London newsroom. Morning to you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Morning. Thanks for having me on.
So, as far as I understand, you're saying immigrants should be expected to learn English before they come to Britain. How would you prove that's what they've done?
Well, just to set this report in context, we spend so much time in this country talking about the numbers of people coming to the UK, and of course that's an important issue, but we don't spend nearly enough time talking about what happens when they get here. And what we're saying is that a crucial part of actually being integrated into UK society when you come and work and settle here is being able to speak English. And we believe, because of that, that either you should be required to have a certain level of English before you come here, or certainly if you do come here and you don't have sufficient proficiency in English, you should be enrolled on compulsory English language classes so that you can become part of the life of our community, because we know that if you're not properly integrated, it denies you opportunities, health outcomes are worse, you don't actually get a chance to enjoy in the benefits of what Britain brings to you, and vice versa. That's why it's important. But a really important thing here, but can I just make this point, is that, look, integration is a two-way street. So, of course, there's a role and certain obligations on people who come here to integrate, which is why we say learning English should be an expectation. But also there's an obligation on the host community as well. We need to properly fund English language learning classes. And also employers need to give people sufficient space and time off to be able to go and learn English as well.
You've made your point. Can you just answer that first question I asked you, though? How do you prove they have what you call this certain level of English?
Well, I mean, there are different ways of doing it. In Australia, they carry out certain tests. We've taken evidence from the High Commissioner from Australia, but this is an interim report. So in terms of the exact detail on that, we're going to produce more detail on how exactly that might work in the final report of this inquiry.
OK, the other suggestion is as well that regional authorities could allocate visas, and this is something I know that you're looking at, would be able to allocate visas according to local need. How would that work? Because that's not the system at the moment, is it? How could you ensure that somebody goes to a particular region?
Well, we know that people care about numbers, but actually they care about the numbers of people coming here far less than they do about control. And one way of instilling more confidence in the system and maintaining the consensus in our country for managed migration is to give more control. And we think a good way of doing that is to devolve down responsibility for setting need to the regions and nations of the UK, much as they do in Canada. In Canada, the different provinces set out their needs according to their sectors and their different labour markets. So, for example, on our committee, the MPs from Scotland, who are SNP members, they actually want to see the numbers of immigrants coming to certain parts of Scotland go up. But in other parts of the UK and parts of England, people would like to see that reduce. What we're saying here is let's give the power to set need to local areas and regions. And that way I think we can detoxify this debate, because then it won't be seen as Westminster imposing immigration on you and saying, look, accept all these people.
Does that mean
you actually have to think about how it works locally.
Does that mean then, for example, a region could say, right, we don't want anybody, we don't want any immigrants? Is that what you're saying? Is that the way you could take it as far as that?
Well, yes, you could feasibly do that. I mean, the way it works in Canada is they pretty much all of the different provinces there want to see more migrants. And actually, I think generally in our country, if you look at, for example, people's attitudes to EU citizens currently living in the UK, there is not a desire to eject those citizens. I went to Boston, which recorded the highest leave vote in the referendum, and they don't want, for example, in Boston, very few people were telling me, look, we want to get rid of all the Eastern European immigrants in our town. For them, it was a question of having more control over this. And of course, different areas will want more or less. But the issue here is to actually give them the power to set that. We know that local businesses, for example, and the needs of the economy dictate that most parts of the UK are going to need more immigrants. But let them actually be the determinants of that. And that way, I think we do get to detoxify what has become a very toxic and polarised debate, polarised between those who say, look, shut the borders, let nobody in, and others who say, have open borders. And I think in the end, British people are sitting in the middle. They want more control. And that's how I think we can maintain the consensus that we've always had in this country for managed migration.
Chuka Umunna, thank you for your time here on Breakfast this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.